Hello and welcome to Venn Diagrams with Cupid's Education. In this lecture, you will understand set notation, fill in a Venn diagram and answer questions for it, and answer questions for a three-set Venn, including conditional probability questions. So first of all, let's have a look at some set notation. So it's a good idea to take some notes here, because you'll need to remember what these are. So this symbol here means the universal set, and it means that's all of the data that we're going to be looking at within the Venn diagram. A subset is a smaller group of the universal set, and it's usually made clear by brackets like this. If we look at something like this where it says P and then A and it looks like an N, B, it's saying what is the probability of this outcome and this outcome. It means intersection. Think of it as and, so we need to know the probability of A and B happening at the same time. Probability of A, U, B, well it's not really a U, but it looks like a U, means the union of. So think of it as A or B. So this is the probability of A or B happening at the same time. And then if we have something where we have the probability of A with a little like apostrophe, it means the probability of not A. So the probability of not choosing a 6 on a dice. So these are a bunch of different Venn diagrams which basically show you different things like this, different probabilities. So this first one here is the probability of not A and the probability of B happening. So the probability of not choosing A and choosing B is just basically the probability of B. This one is a probability of A or B, meaning you can choose anything. This one is the probability of not choosing A or choosing B. So that means you can choose anything, including anything outside of the Venn diagram. It'd be really useful for you to revise these and make sure you understand what each Venn diagram looks like. This is the probability of not choosing A and not choosing B, which means that you can only choose anything outside of the circles. This is the probability of not choosing A or the probability of not choosing B, which means you can't choose anything inside the centre. This is the probability of choosing A and B, which means you can only choose what's in the centre. So these two, as you can see, this is the probability of A and not B, which is basically just A. And this is the probability of choosing A or not B, which is everything but B on its own. So like I said, I urge you to revise those and make sure you know which symbols belong to which Venn diagram. It will make things a lot easier in your exams. So you might get questions a little bit like this. So given that the probability of A is 0.9, find the probability of it not being A. Well, if the probability of it being A is 0.9, then obviously the probability of it not being A must be 0.1. Okay, so remember that all probabilities add up to 1. If you haven't watched the previous videos on probabilities, you must go through them. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all of these questions because it explains them all on the slide that I've just done, but it's just showing you the types of questions that you could get in your exams. A and B, A or B, or union B, okay, not A and not B, not A or B, and A and not B. Okay, so there's just some examples there. Okay, so let's have a look at an example then. The Venn diagram below shows two events, D and F. Okay, so here we want to find the probability of D and F. So the probability of D and F is obviously anything inside D and F coming up together. So it must be in the middle, D and F at the same time. So there are altogether 30 this all adds up to 30. So the probability of choosing D and F is going to be 6 out of 30. So we can cancel that down to 3 over 15 and then 1/5. So on this next one, you've got the probability of not D, Well, the probability of not D is basically anything other than D, so that must be 14 out of 30, okay, which is this here, which is just the F on its own, and this on the outside, okay. We can't choose the 6 because it does include the D. That's 14 over 30, and we can cancel that down to 7 over 15. The probability of choosing D and not F, okay, here we have 19 out of 30. So the probability of choosing D and not F is this D here and this 9 here, because this includes the F. For this one, the probability of choosing D or F, or it must be 21 out of 30, so D union F, okay? That means that everything inside here, okay? So 10, 16, 21, all right? And then this bit here, the probability of not choosing D union F is 14 over 30, okay, which is cancelled down to 7 over 15. Choosing F would be the 5 here and then 9 here to give us 14 over 30, which is 7 over 15. Okay, so you do get certain questions in your exams that could start with given that. So these types of questions narrow down the number of possible outcomes to just part of the Venn diagram. So for example, given that a person had cereal, what is the probability that they didn't have tea? You are only selecting from those who had cereal, so it's now only out of 54. Okay, so those that had cereal are this 19 and this 35. Okay, so the answer of these 54, 19 didn't have tea, okay, because it says they only had cereal. So the answer must be 19 out of 54 because it says didn't have tea. So we can now apply all of this to a 3-set Venn diagram. So this is like one with 3 properties. So here's an example. Let's go through this question. 75 boys were asked which school team they were part of: football, rugby or cricket. The Venn diagram below shows their responses. So A says to find the probability that a student selected at random played football. Well, in the football section, we have all of these students play football. So we need to add all of those together, giving us 20 out of a total of 75, and we can cancel that down to 4 over 15. What is the probability that a student chosen at random played at least one of the sports? Well, if they played at least one, it would just be these 3 numbers on the outside. Those all added together give us 29 out of 75. The probability that they played rugby but not cricket, well, if they played rugby, they can play it here, but they also might have played football. Okay, they just can't play cricket. So that is these 2 here. Okay, so 5 add 6 is 11 out of 75. The probability that they didn't play football, well, if they didn't play football, then they played everything else, including those that didn't play any sports at all, which means that we have to add all of those together. So you have the 6, the 11, the 3. We can't choose anything inside this circle. Then we must add up with the 35, giving us 55 over 75, which can be cancelled down to 11 over 15. So what is the probability that somebody played more than one sport? So playing more than one sport is, well, anything inside any of these rings here. Okay, so adding all of those together gives us 11 out of 75. Question B says, given that a student played football, what is the probability they played another sport as well? So here, they played football. The probability that they also played another sport is this section here. Okay? Well, if they played football, the probability that they played another sport is anything inside here. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 8 out of 75. Okay, so finally then, find the probability that a student played cricket given that they didn't play rugby, and that must be then just this section here. So if they played cricket, you've got 11 there, and you've got one person who played cricket and football. Okay, but you can't use this one or this one because they include rugby. So it must be 12 out of 75, which can be cancelled down to 4 over 25. Okay, so you might also get questions a bit like these. I'm not going through them as we've just been through a bunch of stuff, so you can practice these now. So these are just examples that you could get in your exam. This one is a 3 Venn diagram. You're going to have to draw that before working out the probability. If you'd like to, have a go at that question, please feel free. Okay, so I hope now that you've understood set notation. If you don't, or you don't remember them all, go back to that slide where I went through the diagrams with the different sets. That will help you. You can fill in the Venn diagram and answer questions for it, and answer questions for a 3-set Venn, including conditional probability questions. Okay, so you've all worked extremely well. Thank you so much for using Cubit Education, and I hope to see you next time.